In your opinion, is England overrated, or have they simply never been that good internationally? Because for the country that invented football, and the country with the most watched league on the planet, that trophy cabinet is honestly kind of embarrassing. Just one World Cup, lifted by Bobby Moore at Wembley back in 1966, 60 years ago now. 0 European championships. Every other European nation that's lifted a World Cup has also lifted a Euros. Italy, Germany, France, Spain, all of them. Every single one. Except England. And while England's been sitting on that single star, Italy added 2 more World Cups. Germany added 2 more. Argentina collected 3. Brazil collected 3. And France, who in 1966 were genuinely not very good, France quietly went past them with 2 of their own. So today we're going to work through precisely how that's happened. Let's take a trip through the history of the England national team and understand the biggest reasons why the country that gave birth to football somehow fell so far behind compared to the game's other great powers. Start with the 70s because this is where the cracks first appear. Mexico, 1970. England arrive as defending world champions. Bobby Moore, Gordon Banks, Bobby Charlton, basically the spine of the 66 team. Quarterfinal against West Germany. England go up 2-0 with 20 minutes left. It looks done. And then West Germany score 3 goals in 26 minutes and win 3-2. The reigning world champions go home in a single afternoon. But the real signal comes a few years later. Qualifiers for 1974, and England don't make it. They don't even reach the tournament in West Germany, 8 years after lifting the trophy. And then in 1978, they miss out again. 2 World Cups in a row, watching from home. The football world had moved on. Brian Glanville, one of the great football writers of the era, described English football at the time as a museum piece, physical, rigid, allergic to new ideas. Meanwhile, Holland was inventing total football, fundamentally rewriting how the game could be played. Germany was building one of the most efficient national teams in history, and England was still running essentially the same playbook from the late 50s. The country that gave the world football had forgotten that everyone else was now better at it. Oh, and if you're enjoying this content, hit subscribe and drop a like. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Alright, the 80s. Talent, hooligans, and Maradona. A decade in which English football managed, somehow, to be unwell on every conceivable level at once. Euro 1980. England qualify, they've got Kevin Keegan, they've got a perfectly respectable team, and they get knocked out in the group stage. The bit anyone actually remembers, though, isn't the football. It's the English fans rioting in the stands against Belgium, the police firing tear gas into the crowd, the match being paused for several minutes while the smoke cleared. The official souvenir image of the campaign. World Cup 82 in Spain. England get through the first group, reach the second group phase, and get eliminated without losing a match. 2 draws, West Germany, Spain, was enough. A tournament that ended in the most English way conceivable. Not actually beaten, just quietly not good enough. They don't qualify for Euro 84. Denmark take the spot. Denmark who, just to add a little flourish, beat England 1-0 at Wembley to do it. Mexico 86. Gary Lineker, top scorer of the entire tournament on the form of his career. Quarterfinal against Argentina. And, well, this is the one. The hand of God. Then 4 minutes later, Maradona running through half the team to score what is widely accepted as the greatest individual goal in World Cup history. England lose 2-1. Lineker pulls one back. Nobody is entirely sure which of the 2 things is more upsetting. Well, the next England's major tournament, Euro 88, is frankly a calamity. 3 group games, 3 defeats, Ireland, Holland, the Soviet Union, the lot. And all of this is happening against a background that, on its own, would be deeply alarming. The 80s are the single worst decade English football has ever had, period. Stadiums crumbling. Hooliganism out of control. And then, in 1985, Heysel, the European Cup final between Liverpool and Juventus, where 39 people die in a crowd disaster before kickoff. English clubs banned from European competition for 5 years. Liverpool, 6. By the late 80s, the sport in this country is, quite literally and quite figuratively, on fire. The 90s. Trauma, tears, and reinvention. Now we get to the 90s, which is, depending on how you squint at it, either the start of modern English football or the start of the modern English football trauma. Probably both. Italia 90, Bobby Robson's last tournament. Lineker, Gascoigne, Peter Shilton in goal, a proper side. England get to the semi-finals, best campaign since '66. They draw 1-1 with West Germany, lose 4-3 on penalties. But the bit that ends up in the history books isn't the score. It's Gazza, 23 years old, in floods of tears on the pitch because he'd picked up a yellow card that would have ruled him out of a final he never got to play. That one image does something permanent to English football. The penalty shootout thing, the sense of inevitability when you get to 12 yards, essentially starts there. Euro 92, England even got knocked out in the group stage. Well, Denmark wins the whole thing after only being in because Yugoslavia got kicked out. But the lowest point of the decade is qualifying for World Cup '94. Graham Taylor's England don't make it. There's a famous documentary, An Impossible Job, that filmed Taylor on the touchline slowly losing his mind in real time. England beat San Marino 7-1 in their last match. Didn't matter, other results went the wrong way. Taylor resigned days later. But, and this is the interesting bit, while the national team is being publicly humiliated, English football itself is being rebuilt from scratch. After Hillsborough in '89, the Taylor Report demands modern all-seater stadiums, proper safety reform, the lot. And in 1992, the Premier League is born. New TV money, new marketing, new product. The English game off the pitch starts looking like the future. On the pitch with the national team, it still looks like 1973. Euro 96 at home. Football's coming home. England beat the Netherlands 4-1 in one of the great performances of the era. Gazza scores that goal against Scotland. The country falls properly in love with its team again. Semi-final, England vs Germany. 1-1 draw. Penalties. Germany wins 6-5 on penalties. England are eliminated, and Wembley goes silent once again. And the man who misses is Gareth Southgate. Keep this name in your head, it comes back. World Cup '98. New generation. Beckham, Owen, Scholes, Shearer, Sol Campbell. Great team. Last 16 against Argentina. Owen scores that goal, 18 years old, ghosting through their defense. Then Beckham kicks out at Sim1, red card. 10 men into penalties, lose again. Beckham becomes a national villain for about a year. By the end of the decade, the picture's clear. The clubs are rich. The league is global. But the national team is still stuck in the same old story. The 2000s, a golden generation wasted. The 2000s open in pure frustration. Euro 2000, England in a group with Portugal, Germany, Romania. They beat Germany 1-0. And then they lose to Portugal, lose to Romania, group stage out. But the bigger story starts in 2001. Sven-Göran Eriksson takes over, first foreign manager in England's history. And it's under Sven that the so-called golden generation really comes into focus. Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, Rio Ferdinand, Terry, Ashley Cole, Owen, Rooney. On paper, one of the best squads in the world. The problem is, on paper is exactly where it stayed. Korea, Japan, 2002. England get a kind of revenge on Argentina. Beckham scores from the penalty spot. England win 1-0. They beat Denmark in the last 16. And then quarterfinals against Brazil, 2-1. Rivaldo equalizes, Ronaldinho hits that ridiculous lob over Seaman from a free kick, and that's the tournament. England were good. Brazil were just a different beast. Euro 2004, and for a moment, it genuinely feels like England might finally be back. Wayne Rooney explodes onto the scene at just 18 years old, bullying defenders, scoring 4 goals in the tournament, and looking like the future of English football had finally arrived. England cruise past Switzerland, tear apart Croatia in a thrilling 4-2 comeback, and head into the knockout stage full of belief. Then comes the quarterfinal against Portugal, and everything starts to unravel. Rooney breaks his metatarsal early in the match. England suddenly lose all their spark. Despite taking the lead and fighting hard, they retreat, look nervous, and once again the game drifts toward penalties. Portugal hold their nerve, England don't. And after all the hype, all the talent, and all the expectations, another tournament ends in disappointment. Another golden chance, slipping away before the semifinals even begin. Then comes the peak expectation, World Cup 2006. The whole golden generation finally together and finally in their prime. Gerrard, Lampard, Beckham, Terry, Ferdinand, Ashley Cole, Rooney, names everywhere. Maybe the most talented England squad since 1966. And this time people genuinely believed England could win the whole thing. But even during the tournament, something always felt off. England topped their group without really convincing anyone. The football was slow, tense, overly cautious. Lampard couldn't score despite chance after chance. Gerrard and Lampard still looked uncomfortable together in midfield. And Sven-Göran Eriksson never truly found a system that made the team click as one. Then comes the quarterfinal, Portugal again. Always Portugal. Rooney gets sent off after stamping on Ricardo Carvalho. England are down to 10 men. The game drifts into a nervy 0-0. And once again it all comes down to penalties. Once again England collapse. Cristiano Ronaldo celebrates. England are gone. And that's the moment the entire golden generation era officially dies. Well, Steve McClaren had come in as the new manager, supposed to refresh the squad and move England into a new era. But then it gets worse, somehow. November 2007, Wembley, last qualifier for Euro 2008. England need a draw against Croatia. McClaren is standing on the touchline holding an umbrella in the rain. The image that defines his entire reign. England lose 3-2. They don't qualify. McClaren is sacked the next day. Then came Fabio Capello, Italian, ruthless, highly decorated, and he gets England to the 2010 World Cup. But the tournament? A mess. The group stage is a struggle from the start. A draw against the United States, another painful draw against Algeria. Somehow, England just scraped through. Then comes the round of 16, Germany. Lampard smashes a shot. It crashes off the bar, bounces clearly over the line at least a yard in. The keeper grabs it, play continues, the referee waves it off. No goal line technology back then. And the irony, it's brutal. Because back in 1966, England had luck on their side with Geoff Hurst's famous shot off the bar. But in 2010, against Germany again, that exact kind of moment goes completely against them. England get torn apart. 4-1. Their worst defeat ever in a World Cup knockout game. The Premier League at this point is the richest and most watched league on the planet, packed with world-class foreign players, while English talents are getting fewer opportunities at the biggest clubs, and the national team is nowhere, which is when the FA starts to panic, pushing new rules and development systems to make sure Premier League clubs focus more on producing and playing English players again. The England's endless football curse. A new decade begins and somehow England's embarrassment just keeps going. Euro 2012. Roy Hodgson now in charge. Quarterfinal against Italy, 0-0. England lose on penalties. England and their never-ending tradition of somehow always losing on penalties. World Cup 2014 Brazil. Group with Italy, Uruguay, Costa Rica. Lose, draw. Out. First round exit. The whole tournament's over for England in about a week and a half. Their worst campaign ever. Without question, one of the absolute lowest points in England's entire football history. But if you think the humiliation ends here, oh, you're very mistaken. Euro 2016. Kane, Dele Alli, Sterling, Rashford all coming through. Last 16 against Iceland. Iceland, a country with fewer people than some London postcodes, beat England 2-1. Hodgson resigns at the press conference that same night, so they hire Gareth Southgate. Yeah, that's Southgate, the one who missed the penalty in '96. Plot twist. Nobody expected much. He'd been the under-21s coach. He was the safe choice. But here's what Southgate quietly did. He picked younger players. He worked on the psychological side. He worked specifically on the penalty thing, the very thing that had ended his own career, and turned it into a strength. And somehow, it actually kind of worked. World Cup 2018. England finally break their penalty curse, beating Colombia in a dramatic shootout after Yerry Mina's heartbreaking last-minute equalizer. Then comes Sweden in the quarterfinals, and for once, England looked calm, composed, professional. A solid 2-0 win. Suddenly, England are in the semifinals, their best World Cup run since 1990. But of course, heartbreak was waiting around the corner. Croatia. Extra time. A 2-1 defeat. Still, for the first time in a generation, the whole country felt something it hadn't felt in years. Hope. Euro 2020 played in 2021 because of the pandemic, and suddenly England looked like real contenders. They play almost the entire tournament at Wembley, beat Germany in the round of 16, finally, then absolutely dismantle Ukraine 4-0 in the quarterfinals, one of England's most convincing knockout performances in decades. Next comes Denmark in the semifinals, a tense, emotional game, and not without controversy. England win after a hugely debated penalty in extra time, with plenty of people feeling Raheem Sterling went down a little too easily. But England couldn't care less. For the first time since 1966, they're in a major final. And suddenly, football really might be coming home. Final at Wembley. Against Italy. Luke Shaw scores after 2 minutes. And for about an hour, the entire country is convinced they're about to do it. Italy equalize. Penalties. England lose 3-2. First major final since 1966. Lost at home. Qatar 2022, and honestly, England looked like one of the strongest teams in the tournament. They cruise past Senegal 3-0 in the round of 16 and head into the quarterfinals looking like genuine contenders. Then comes France. Kane scores from the spot, England play well, maybe even better for stretches of the game. For long moments, it feels like they might actually pull it off. But then, in the final 10 minutes, England get one last chance. Another penalty. Harry Kane steps up with the chance to level the game. And he skies it. France win 2-1. England are out. Heartbreak, all over again. Euro 2024 and England get off to a rough start. Slow, tense, unconvincing. Nothing about this team really screams future champions. Then comes the round of 16 against Slovakia and disaster is seconds away, until Jude Bellingham pulls off an unbelievable bicycle kick at the death to keep England alive. They survive. Next up, Switzerland, and once again, England make things harder than they need to. A massive scare, another tense night, but this time they hold their nerve and win on penalties. Then finally, in the semifinals, something clicks. England look more composed, more confident, more like themselves, beating the Netherlands to book their place in yet another final. This time it's Spain. Cole Palmer comes off the bench and pulls England level. For a moment, it feels like maybe this is finally their time. But then in the 86th minute, Spain strike again. 2-1. Another final. Another heartbreak. And just like that, Gareth Southgate steps down after 8 years in charge. No trophy, but look at the record. Semi-final, final, quarterfinal, final. For the first time in decades, England are genuinely one of the world's serious football nations again. Just not, a winning one. Yet. Tuchel takes over. A new English cycle. Which brings us finally to right now. Tuchel takes over officially in January 2025. And he is exactly the type of manager England has rarely trusted itself to hire. German, ruthless, technical, intense. Won a Champions League with Chelsea. Won league titles in 3 different countries. Known for being tactically sharp in big games. Not a manager coddler. Not a vibes guy. A serious operator. In February 2026, the FA extends his contract through to Euro 2028. The signal is clear. They're not just hiring him for the World Cup. They're committing to the project beyond it. The squad he inherits is genuinely strong. Bellingham, Saka, Kane, Rice, Palmer, Gary, Foden, Mainu. A group that's been to 2 finals already. Knows what big tournaments feel like, knows what penalty shootouts feel like. What they don't have yet is a manager willing to be uncomfortable in the biggest moments. A manager who'll make a tactical change at minute 70 that nobody on the radio agrees with. That's the Tuchel bet. The talent is there. The squad is there. The country is, again, daring to hope. The question is whether this generation gets remembered as another close call, or whether it ends 60 years of silence. The answers. Why England can't win the World Cup. So in the end, why? Why is England still the country with 1 star, while every other major football nation kept adding to theirs? Well, in my view, it's not really about bad luck, not about penalties, not about disallowed Lampard goals, or whatever the moment of the week is. When you zoom out, I think 4 things explain England falling behind better than anything else. 1. Historical arrogance. The biggest mistake England made was believing, for far too long, that because they invented the modern game, they automatically understood it best. That sense of superiority kept the country from looking outward, from learning from anyone. While Brazil, Germany, Italy, the Dutch, Argentina were rethinking the game in real time, England kept seeing itself as the center of the football universe. Meanwhile, the universe had quietly moved on. 2. Tactical lag. This one comes straight out of the first. For decades, English football stayed loyal to a more rigid, more physical, more old-fashioned idea of the sport. While other countries went through tactical revolutions, total football, Italian defensive systems, the Spanish positional game, German gegenpressing, England stuck with what it knew. The Premier League eventually modernized through foreign managers and foreign players. The national team took much longer to catch up. Only really under Southgate and now Tuchel does it start to look like a team built for how the modern game is actually played. 3. A talent crisis in some decades. This one's a bit uncomfortable for English fans. The truth is, England hasn't always had the generations it likes to remember it had. In the 70s and through parts of the 90s, the talent pool was genuinely thinner than other major footballing nations. While Brazil, Argentina, the Netherlands, Germany, Italy were producing more refined, more creative, more tournament-ready players, England was producing physical, hard-working, technically limited squads. And even surprise nations, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Sweden, Denmark, Yugoslavia, at certain moments simply had better players than them. 4. Pressure. The weight of 1966. Every England generation since has been told the same thing, bring it home. And that's the problem. Instead of playing free, they play scared. And honestly, and I say this as someone who fell in love with football living in California, of all places, before ever setting foot in London, even from across the Atlantic, you could feel how heavy that shirt had become. Every penalty miss feeds the next one. Every quarterfinal exit feeds the next one. The shirt got heavier, decade by decade, until you could see it on the players in the 88th minute of every big knockout. That's the real curse. The country that invented the game has spent 60 years carrying it. Now I want to know, do you agree with this take? Or do you see it completely differently? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely read them. And if this topic landed for you, there's another video on the channel about international football. See you in the next one.